Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are actually in the massive beer review shed, which is where Matt does a lot of his reviews. So a massive shout out to Matt, who I'm staying with at the moment. He's away doing a few things at the moment, so I'm going to film a couple of sit-down reviews. But for this review, we are going to return to the state of New York. And we're going to go to a brewery that has featured on the channel many times before, but this will be the very first time I'm doing a solo brewery beer review from them. Now, if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, and this beer is potentially one of their kind of flagships or most well-known beers actually, so it'll be quite interesting to do a proper sit-down review of this one. I did actually try this on tap when I filmed an out and about video at their brewery a couple of weeks back. So yeah, hopefully it's as good as I remember, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. Certainly very curious to see what it's going to have in store for us. For this review then, we are going to head to Brooklyn, which is just to the southeast of Manhattan in New York City, and we're going to have a look at my first solo brewery beer review from Other Half Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Broccoli. It comes in at 7.9% ABV, and as you might expect, this one is a New England hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this should be quite nice. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done involving Other Half Brewing Company before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the American playlist along with a number of other things, and we will be continuing to add to that over the next little while, I'm sure. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Other Half Brewing then. So, Other Half Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Brooklyn in New York, and the company was founded back in 2014 by Samuel Richardson, Matt Monahan and Andrew Berman. So Matt had worked as a line cook and in kitchens for a number of years, and he really got into home brewing during that time, and then he decided to go for it and make that his main career. Samuel, on the other hand, studied food science in Oregon with a special focus on fermentation science, and he worked in various breweries before getting involved in starting Other Half. But Andrew has a background in the restaurant industry, and he had been a partner in a number of restaurants, so he really knew how to make the business side of things tick. So Matt manages the business side of the brewery, while Samuel is the brewery operations manager and is also involved in the recipe development. But they've grown very, very quickly over the last few years, and they have their tap room on Center Street in Brooklyn, which is where we filmed before. But in 2018, they purchased the former brewery of Nedlow Brewing in East Bloomfield in the Rochester area, and this has allowed them to produce their beers on a much bigger scale and get them further afield than before, and they do have a sour beer program these days as well. But as of September 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced somewhere in the region of 1,800 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Other Half Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's that for your brewery history section, I would say. So let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll let you have a wee look at the can art on this one. Matt has this lovely kind of light that's underneath here that you can change the brightness and things of and change the colours of, so yeah, it's kind of interesting. You can make it flash and stuff like that too. But yeah, there you can see it got a little bit darker. That's obviously not the best way to do it. So yeah, there we are. You can see there's the lovely other half artwork there. You can see the brewery symbol at the top, which I think is great. Plain silver top on the can there. Incidentally, this is a 473 milliliter can, 1 American pint, or 16 fluid ounces in freedom units, as I like to call it. But yeah, it comes in at 7.9% ABV. As I say, this one is called Broccoli, which is one of their kind of flagship beers. And yeah, this one is hopped with Mosaic, Simcoe, Nelson Sauvin, and Strata, with some cryo in there as well from Mosaic and Simcoe. We know all of these hops quite well. All of them are American aside from New Zealand. Mosaic is about 14% alpha acid. That's going to give you a lovely big kind of tangerine orangey note. Simcoe is about 12% alpha acid, and it's going to give you this very distinctive, smooth, kind of passion fruity character in a New England IPA. Strata is about 16% alpha acid, if I remember rightly, and that's going to give you a mix of sort of melon and kind of juicy strawberry. But yeah, Nelson Sauvin, 16% alpha acid, New Zealand. That's going to give you these big kind of that's going to give you these big sort of white, green, grapey, gooseberry type notes. But yeah, as I said earlier, 7.9% ABV, one of Other Half's flagship beers. Let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm really curious to do a proper sit-down tasting of this one. So let's get it out into the glass and see what we have. Looks really nice. We still have a little bit left in the can at the bottom there, and we'll put that in a wee bitty later on. So yeah, as you can see, this one's poured pretty much as you would expect from any kind of New England IPA. So before the head disappears, we can see that this beer is poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would definitely say cream coloured head. You can see medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, and it gets foamier the further up that you go, but it looks really quite nice actually, this one. I think it goes together really quite well. So colour wise, I would say that this one is like a kind of very rich sort of mango juice colour. I always like comparing New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's just what they remind me of. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts you put in will also affect the colour of the beer. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that with the New England IPAs. So yeah, in terms of the level of haze of this one, this is one of the things that you always get with Other Half. You know, these guys, the level of haze on their beers is always insane, but the level of haze on a New England IPA depends on the oak content, the wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use as well. So one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass with this one, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head too, but not too much visible carbonation. But then it is pretty damn hazy, this one actually. You can see just how opaque it is if I put my hand behind the glass there. But yeah, the head has just faded away to a nice kind of thinner foamy layer. But yeah, this one looks really nice actually. So I think we've said everything we really need to about the appearance of the beer. Let's have a little look at the aroma and see what this one is going to have in store for us. Oh, I think we need to play with this. There we are. That's what we want. But yeah, aroma wise, this is very nice. Yeah, so as I often say with New England IPAs, there are 6 different ways that your beer can lean in terms of the malty and yeasty side of things. So yeah, you have to think about the sort of farmhousey yeasty type character, the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those elements are a bit more prominent in American brewed New England IPAs, in my experience. But then you've also got like wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and the sweeter side of things as well, and that's more the direction that the European brewed New England IPAs have evolved in. The first thing that strikes me about this one is it seems from the aroma that it's going to be a bit more kind of wheaty leaning, but knowing Other Half, these beers are always like quite, you know, they're really thick and really smooth. Anything that I've had that Other Half has been involved in, the mouthfeel has been really thick, really smooth, and very kind of creamy. But yeah, with this one, it smells great, I have to say that. So quite a wheaty leaning New England. Got a bit of bitiness to it, big green component too, and then you've got those lovely oily, just juicy, fruity characters. For me, that's, other half. I'm sure if I had access to these a little bit more regularly than I do, these would be quite distinctive to me. But yeah, let's break down the aroma then. So, aroma-wise, the backbone of this beer is a lovely kind of fresh, white bready bread crust. On top of that, you're getting a little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker, which is really interesting. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of woody character, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker. Then you have this really, you do get a little bit of a kind of sweeter, wholemeal, brown bready note coming out of this one. But then yeah, the rest of it is kind of like big white bready characteristics. At the back of the nose, there's absolutely a little bit of that kind of more bitey, sort of wheaty character to the beer as well. I mean, yeah. On top of everything else too, you can smell with the white bread, the wheat is kind of densifying out the whole thing, to be honest with you. You get that lovely big kind of dense white bready wheat sitting on top of everything. As I've said in many reviews before, when I've been over here in the US this time, the American wheat, I think, is a bit more, it's a bit smoother actually than the European wheat, and I think generally speaking the American palate is a bit sweeter than the European palate. So yeah, that's one of the things I've really noticed about the American grains, drinking the American beers more regularly. But yeah, there's quite a lot of oaty character comes out of this one the more that you smell it too. So there's a lovely big kind of cream oaty smooth note out of this one. There's this bit, yeah, big smooth oaty creamy note out of this. I do wonder if it's got a little bit of oat cream or something in it. It smells quite distinctive in that sense too. But yeah, creamy oats. And as I've said with IPAs before, or with New England IPAs I should say, the oats can usually be a very good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oat smell and taste, the fresher the beer is. The drier the oat smell and taste, the older the beer is. That's kind of the gist of it, basically. Yeah, aroma-wise, other than that, you've got a little bit of like a Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing coming out of this one. This beer does actually give you a little bit of this kind of sort of candied red fruity sherbet type thing that you get in some beers. I'm pretty sure it's a kind of product of the yeast that does that actually. But yeah, the way that that goes together I think is quite interesting too. So you've got this little bit of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and then yeah, underneath that you get this little bit of a kind of sherbet. It reminds me of these sweets back home in Scotland called Parma Violets. It really reminds me of those, which is like it is kind of like a lemon. It's the same idea as a lemon sherbet, but it's a little bit more like a kind of grapey or like blackcurranty type sherbet. I'm getting a little bit of that out of the aroma of this beer too. But on the hoppy side of things then, let's have a wee look at the green component first, as we often do. So the green component for me really is quite bright and quite floral, but it's kind of oily as well from the cryo oils. You can really smell that. There's a little bit of earthiness in here. There's a little bit of there's a wee tiny bit of herbal character, but for the most part it's quite a deep and actually quite dank floral character that's coming out of this one, but at the same time it's very bright. I think it's the cryo that gives you that more oily feel to it, which makes it feel a bit deeper and danker. But you've also got this lovely kind of light grassy sort of thing coming out of it too, and quite a zesty grassy character. The thing to remember with IPAs as well is that you have three types of hopping. You have early addition hopping, which takes place usually within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you mainly bitterness and a deep dank flavour and aroma. Then you've got late addition hopping, which is in the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you usually quite a bright green component, bright flavour and aroma, rather than being sort of so deep and dank. And then yeah, the dry hopping has got, my brain is just not working, The dry hopping takes place after the wort boil is complete, and again, that gives you a very bright green component, very little bitterness. Early edition hopping is going to give you all the bitterness, late edition hopping a little bit, and then dry hopping is going to give you none. New England IPAs rely on late edition and dry hopping. West Coast IPAs rely on early edition hopping as a third one as well, which is why they have that deeper, dank aroma. They use all three. Didn't explain that so well, but yeah, happens sometimes in the reviews. So that covers your green component. On the fruity side of things, it's kind of what you would expect. There's a lovely, in terms of the green component, you have a lovely, the fruity component, I should say. In terms of the fruity component with this one, it's kind of what you'd expect if you know these hops, to be honest with you. You've got a lovely there's a little touch of grapefruit to this one, but that's quite minimal. You get that big, smooth, juicy passion fruit, and a bit of juicy mango in there. That's going to be the Simcoe that's giving you those. And then you can smell the Nelson Sauvin, kind of giving you that more oily gooseberry type note, and I think the Strata's kind of amplifying that a wee bit with its melony sort of characteristic. So you definitely get this big kind of oily note out of the fruity character. The Mosaic, the tangerine orange is sitting there in the top at the front of the nose, and yeah, I think so there's passion fruit, juicy mango, the gooseberry and melony bits, the little bit of strawberries in there as well. You get the kind of juicy strawberry from the Strata coming out of this one too, which is very, very nice. The way that goes together is really quite interesting actually. It's a lovely, lovely smelling beer, this. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beers before you get stuck into them. I think we can taste this one now and see what it's all about. So we've got a little bit more in there, a nice head on it. But yeah, let's try this one and see. This is the Broccoli 7.9% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call the IPA. My very first solo brewery beer review from Other Half Brewing. Sláinte, skål, cheers. Yeah. That is very, very nice. Yeah. You know, when you try one of their kind of core beers, you can see why these guys are so well thought of and why so many of the European breweries wanted to collaborate with these guys. No, these guys are doing some good stuff, and I could see that when I went to their brewery the other day and tried a few of the different beers. You really could see the quality of the stuff. The West Coast IPA that we had, I think we had a lager as well, and we had a stout too, which was in collaboration. Or was it a barley wine? I forget, but it was in collaboration with Omnipollo, who love the Other Half beers. This is just pretty awesome, I have to say. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Let's just break this beer down then and describe it a bit more in depth, as we always do. So for me, if we say overall, it's got a little bit of that wheaty, bitey character to it, but very, very smooth in its mouthfeel. Nice kind of bitey or green component as well, and then just lovely kind of fruity, juicy, smooth, oily sort of thing. I really do like how all of this just pieces together. It's a lovely, lovely beer, this one. So let's break this down and describe the flavour a bit more in depth for you. So the backbone of this beer, if we go to that middle third of the palate, the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust, as you would expect. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in there. As you go further forward on that middle third of your palate, you do get a little touch of that woody kind of character coming out of this one. On top of the woodiness, there's maybe a very slight hint of cracker. But the thing with Other Half that sort of distinguishes them, if you like, or makes their beers distinctive, is the density of the mouthfeel and things like that, and the density of the beer, because what you're getting above the kind of bread crusty character is this really dense and very distinctive white bread. So the white bready character there, it's almost like creamy actually, and there's maybe actually a very slight layer. There's potentially a very slight layer of like a sweet kind of wholemeal brown bread coming out of this one, but again that would be very, very slight. So yeah, a little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of thing, as I said, and then yeah, the kind of wholemeal brown bready character that you have it coming out of this is quite nice, and then above that you've got this big, dense and slightly sweet white bready character, and that lingers there into the aftertaste. Above that you can feel the wheat just densifying out this kind of white bready character even further, and the wheatiness in this beer is quite interesting because it does have a little bit of a kind of almost a little bit of a bite to it, which I didn't quite expect. So yeah, you've got this little bit of kind of wheaty, bitey character coming out of this one, which I think is really nice, but it smoothens out into the aftertaste as you go, and I think that's great. On top of the kind of wheaty bitiness, then you have the oaty creamy note coming out of this one, and the oats are lovely in this beer. Like as you go down the middle line of your tongue, you've got this big, smooth, creamy character, and that's there. And as you go further out toward the edge of the middle third of your palate, it just gets a little bit kind of drier, to be honest with you. Yeah, that is really nice with this beer actually, just the kind of the little bit of oaty dryness that you get there, but for the most part, as I say, this beer is really dense and really smooth and sweet and creamy in its mouthfeel. I think it's great. It really is very, very nice. Yeah, in the dead centre of your palate then you've got like a little circle there, and that's where you get the Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of things coming out of the beer, and there's maybe a little touch of like a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of note to this beer as well. That's very, very minimal. It really is just more like a creamy kind of Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, and the dead centre of your palate, that's where the alcohol is going to be. So yeah, this is lovely. Such a good IPA. Yeah, I think that covers everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate then, so we can go on to the back third of the palate. Remember the general trend with your palate that sweeter flavours are going to come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours are going to come out further back. And the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your tongue. It's just going to come out at different intensities. So yeah, the back of that, the back of that, the base of that back third of your palate, the bread crust is there, for sure. So yeah, you've got that, yeah, the bread crusty character is at the bottom, it's a little bit drier, then above that you get the crackery notes, you can feel the brown bready sweetness is a little bit taller, and it's a little bit lighter and more airy, and then you have above that, you have the white bready character, which again feels a little bit lighter and more airy. Yeah, so you get that lighter and more airy sort of bready character in there, but still kind of sweet actually, and you can feel some of the wheaty character just going over the top of that back third of your palate and giving you a wee bit of bitiness, and then you've got the yeasty side of the beer sitting above that, So the yeasty side of this beer has got this lovely big kind of dense, sweet, white bready character, and it's like a doughy sort of thing. Then it's wrapped in this, it's kind of wrapped in a little bit of an almost honeycomb type note. Actually, the yeasty character in this beer is pretty nice, but definitely back third of the palate you can feel the flavour. It's quite tall, then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really nice. And at that, I think we've covered the malty and yeasty side of the beer, so we'll go on to the hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, if we look at the green component first, the back corners of the palate have a lovely little bit of earthiness to it. As you move further forward, it's a little touch herbal, and as you push toward the front corners of the palate, you get this nice kind of floral aromaticity. It's a big sort of oily floral aromaticity that you get out of this one. So yeah, nice kind of big oily floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. Then round the front curve of the tongue, you get the lighter kind of grassy notes, and they're a wee touch more zesty, I would say too. So yeah, good little bit of a more kind of zesty, grassy sort of thing coming out of this one. A little bit oily, I would say. And then yeah, if we go to that front third of your palate, then on that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got this kind of little bit of bready build up in there, a wee bit of brown bread in the base, but a fluffier white bread on top of that. Then the base of that front third of your palate is yeah, the base of that front third of your palate is a really nice kind of, you've got the bread crusty character again, a wee bit of the sweet brown bread, then you can feel the thick white bread on top of that. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a look at the fruity estery side of things with this beer. So yeah, for me, the fruity side of this beer is again what you'd expect from these hops. It's quite oily, generally speaking. So at the back of that front third of your palate, you get a little bit of a, kind of stronger. There's almost like a little touch of grapefruit to it. The back half of the front third of your palate is all about the Simcoe, so there's almost a very slight grapefruit there. But then you get this more pungent passion fruity type note, and as you move further forward, you get like a very kind of ripe mango-y type quality coming out of this one, which I think is really quite nice as well. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. Then as you move into the front half of the front third of your palate, the other three hops come out, so you can feel in the base that sort of oily, gooseberry, white green grapey thing of the Nelson Sauvin. In the dead centre of your palate, you might pick up a little bit of a kind of melony note. That's going to be from the Strata, and then you can feel like a sort of more juicy strawberry. And that the kind of front third of your palate is quite layered. It's like Nelson Sauvin, Strata, and then the Mosaic on top. So yeah, you've got the gooseberry, white green grapey bit underneath. Then at the back of the front half of the front third of your tongue, you have this little bit of kind of melony note, that little bit of stronger melon, and the juicy strawberry as you move further forward. Then it's the kind of oily, juicy, tangerine orange that you would expect from the Mosaic, and the way that that goes together, I think, is absolutely lovely. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, lovely tasting beer, this one. I really like how it pieces together. The fruity character, as I say, is just lovely and oily. But I think we've said everything we need about the flavour of this one. We can round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So, mouthfeel wise, for me, this beer, yeah, it's top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation's extremely smooth in this one. This beer really treads a very fine line between like very kind of smooth and creamy, and also being very like having a bit of oiliness and slickness to it. In terms of the IBUs, I think this beer is quite fresh actually. I think you can taste that. You can taste a little bit of the kind of the green And New England IPAs you do have to be a bit careful with. You shouldn't drink these too young because you'll get more out of them when they just mellow out a little bit. You know, at least, you know, give them 2 weeks in the can at least, just to let them mellow out. But yeah, for me, I think there's maybe about 40-ish IBUs in this one, but I would not be surprised if it was 50. In terms of the malt base, like we said, it's a bit dry underneath, smooth in the middle, quite dense in the middle, and it's got a little touch of sweetness on the bready side of things, but then yeah, you've got that more oily, creamy smoothness just sitting on top actually. So the way that this beer goes together is really very, very nice. Yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is great. And the fruity side of the beer, as we said, it's quite well balanced between the kind of more tropical side of things and the more oily side of things. It's got just a wee bit of that kind of more citrusy note to it as well, but big oily and juicy fruity character to it. But yeah, all in all, beautiful New England Double IPA this one, and I think choosing one of their core beers for my first kind of proper sit-down review with another half beer, I think was a very good choice. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this was the Broccoli, coming in at 7.9% ABV, a New England Imperial Hazy Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Other Half Brewing in Brooklyn in New York. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Other Half Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But yeah, until then, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Massive Matt's beer reviews, and I'm filming in his spot at the moment, which is kind of cool. And I will see you guys on another review. The Broccoli from Other Half Brewing in Brooklyn, New York. Slàinte, Skål, cheers, and see you guys later.